This is not another video explaining you. This is not content designed to fill your time while you scroll through something else. If you're here, something in you already knows this matters. You felt it before you clicked, that quiet pull toward understanding something you've been living but haven't named. Most videos don't respect your time or your intelligence. They promise insight and deliver distraction. This one will respect both if you let it. We're not just adding information to your life, we're removing confusion. And that might feel uncomfortable, too direct. It might make you want to click away because clarity asks more of you than entertainment does. But if you stay, it's because you value something rare. Mental coherence over mental noise, depth over dopamine. The kind of understanding that reorganizes how you see yourself, not just how you talk about yourself. This isn't psychology as curiosity. This is psychology as sanity. You probably notice something shifting. Going out feels harder than it used to. Not because you're broken, not because you're failing at life, but because something quiet broke in the world. And you're one of the few people honest enough to admit you felt it. The question isn't whether this matters. The question is whether you're ready to stop consuming and start integrating. Here's what this video won't do. It won't give you tips. It won't validate your choices with soft reassurance. It won't explain why you're special for preferring your couch to crowded bars. This isn't entertainment. It's not even education in the way you're used to. It's clarification. And clarification feels different. It doesn't add comfort. It removes confusion. Sometimes that's uncomfortable because confusion has been protecting you from seeing something clearly. Most content about staying home treats it like a personality trait, like you're choosing a lifestyle. But that's not what's happening. What's happening is more fundamental, more honest, and way less cute. You're not discovering you're an introvert. You're not embracing your authentic self. You're responding to something most people refuse to acknowledge, that the world became exhausting in a way it didn't used to be. And your mind is doing exactly what it should, protecting itself. This video will show you why that response makes sense, why it's not weakness, and why understanding it might be the most important thing you do for your mental health this year. If you stay, it's because you value mental clarity more than distraction. And if that's true, you're exactly where you need to be. You didn't wake up one day and decide the world was too much. It happened slower than that, more honest than that. There was a moment, maybe 6 months ago, maybe 2 years, when going out stopped feeling natural, not dramatic, not a panic attack or a breakdown. Just this quiet resistance that started showing up where it never used to. Someone invites you somewhere. Your first reaction isn't excitement, it's math. How long will this take? How much energy will I need? How loud will it be? How many people will ask me questions I don't have answers for? And then the guilt comes, because you're supposed to want this. You're supposed to feel grateful for connection, for invitations, for a social life that proves you're normal and healthy and participating. But here's what nobody tells you, that guilt is a distraction from the real signal. Your nervous system isn't broken. It's responding accurately to something that actually changed. The world got louder, faster, more demanding, more performative, more exhausting in ways that have nothing to do with physical effort. And your mind, doing exactly what it was designed to do, started pulling back. This isn't regression. It's not fear. It's not you failing to keep up with life. It's your mind recognizing that the cost of being out there, the constant input, the social performance, the sensory flooding, the emotional labor of being accessible, outweighs what you actually get back. Most people feel this, but most people override it. They push through. They call it discipline or ambition or not being lazy. They wear exhaustion like a badge that proves they're trying hard enough. You didn't do that. You noticed. And noticing is the first act of intelligence. Because what broke wasn't you. What broke was the unspoken contract that said constant engagement equals a life well lived. And the moment you stopped believing that, everything shifted. You're not withdrawing from life. You're refusing to pretend exhaustion is vitality. Not all minds are built the same way. Some people thrive in chaos. They get energy from noise, from movement, from the unpredictable rhythm of being around others. Their nervous systems regulate through stimulation. Yours doesn't, and that's not a flaw, it's architecture. Your mind processes differently, deeper. It doesn't skim the surface of experiences, it integrates them. And integration takes time, it takes quiet, it takes space that the modern world has almost completely eliminated. When you're bombarded with input, conversations that go nowhere, notifications that never stop, environments designed to keep you stimulated, your mind doesn't filter it out. It tries to process all of it. And that's where the collapse begins, not a breakdown, a fragmentation. You start losing the thread of who you are because you're spending all your energy managing what's coming at you. Every interaction becomes a transaction. Every outing becomes a performance. Every conversation becomes work. And here's where emotional intelligence actually enters the picture, not as some abstract concept, but as survival. Emotional intelligence isn't about reading other people better. It's about reading yourself accurately enough to know when you're hitting your limit. It's about recognizing the signs before your nervous system makes the decision for you. Most people call this awareness sensitivity, like it's something to overcome. But sensitivity isn't weakness. It's data. It's your system telling you this environment is not sustainable for how you're built. The world right now rewards people who can ignore their limits, who can push through, who can stay engaged and productive and accessible no matter what it costs them internally. But you can't build a life on betraying your own nervous system. Emotional intelligence starts when you stop treating your need for quiet like a character flaw. When you stop apologizing for needing recovery time from things that don't seem difficult to other people. Your mind doesn't collapse under noise because it's fragile. It collapses because it's trying to stay whole in a world that demands constant fragmentation. Home isn't comfort, it's regulation. That's the part most people miss. They think you're staying home because it's easier, because it's safe, because you're avoiding something difficult out there in the real world. But that's not what's happening. What's happening is that home is the only place left where your mind stops defending itself, where the variables are controlled, where you're not constantly adjusting to someone else's energy, someone else's expectations, someone else's timeline. Previsibility isn't boring, it's stabilizing. When you know what to expect, your mind stops spending energy on threat assessment. It stops scanning. It stops preparing. It can finally shift from survival mode into integration mode. And integration is where everything important happens. It's where you process what you experienced, where you make sense of what you felt, where you figure out what actually matters to you versus what you were performing for an audience. The outside world doesn't allow for that anymore. It's designed to keep you in a state of partial attention, always ready, always accessible, always responding. Home is the only place where you can be unavailable, and unavailability isn't laziness. It's a prerequisite for mental health. Think about what happens when you walk into your space after being out. That exhale, that drop in your shoulders, that feeling of finally being able to stop performing. That's not relief from difficulty. That's your mind returning to baseline. Most people never reach baseline anymore. They live in a state of constant low-level activation, and they've normalized it so completely that they don't even realize they're operating in survival mode 20 hours a day. You do realize it, and realizing it changes everything. Because now you're not just staying home. You're creating the psychological conditions required for sanity. You're building an environment where your mind can actually function the way it was designed to. Sanity doesn't grow in chaos, it stabilizes in coherence. And coherence requires control over your environment in ways the world is increasingly unwilling to give you. There's a version of you that used to show up to things. Not the real you, the performing you. The one who knew how to laugh at the right moments, ask the right questions, seem interested in conversations that didn't actually interest you at all. That version worked. It got you through dinners and parties and networking events and all the social machinery that proves you're a functional adult. And then one day, without announcement, you stopped being able to access it. Not because you're depressed, not because you hate people, but because the cost of playing that role became visible. And once you see the cost, you can't unsee it. Every interaction started feeling like a transaction. Every conversation became a performance you had to sustain. Every social gathering became a place where you had to manage how you were being perceived instead of just existing. And the exhaustion wasn't physical, it was existential. Because here's what nobody talks about. Most social interaction isn't connection, it's presentation. It's showing up with the version of yourself that makes other people comfortable. The version that's easy, accessible, enthusiastic about things you stopped caring about years ago. You got tired of being that person, not because you're antisocial, but because you started valuing something else more, knowing who you actually are when nobody's watching. That's not isolation, that's differentiation. It's the ability to separate your real presence from your social presence. To stop performing normalcy and start living in alignment with what actually makes sense to you. Most people never make that distinction. They become the performance. They lose access to themselves under the weight of being whoever the room needs them to be. You didn't do that. You walked away from the stage. And walking away doesn't mean you hate the audience. It means you finally realized the performance was costing you access to your own mind. Emotional intelligence isn't about being better at social situations. It's about knowing when those situations are actively dismantling your sense of self. Here's the part where we stop protecting you, because there's a line, and you need to know where it is. Staying home can restore you. It can give you the space to integrate, to recover, to remember who you are outside the noise. But it can also become the place you hide. And the difference between the two isn't always obvious, not at first, because they feel identical from the inside. When you're restoring, you're choosing quiet because it gives you something back, clarity, energy, a sense of alignment. You're not running from life, you're creating the conditions to engage with it on terms that don't destroy you. When you're avoiding, you're choosing quiet because everything else feels like a threat. Not because it actually is one, but because you've stopped testing that assumption. Restoration has a rhythm. You go inward, you stabilize, and then you have capacity again. Avoidance has a collapse. You go inward, you stay there, and the world outside starts feeling more impossible the longer you're away from it. Here's how you know the difference. Restoration makes you more capable. Avoidance makes you more fragile. If staying home is giving you the ability to show up in the world with more presence, more clarity, more discernment, that's health. That's intelligence. But if staying home is making the world feel increasingly unbearable, if every interaction feels harder than the last, if you're building a life that only functions when nothing is asked of you, that's not self-care. That's slow erosion. Mental health isn't about choosing comfort. It's about choosing clarity, even when clarity is uncomfortable. And sometimes clarity means admitting that you're not restoring anymore. You're withdrawing. You're teaching yourself that you can't handle things you actually can handle. You're mistaking temporary exhaustion for permanent incapacity. Nobody else can tell you which side of the line you're on. That's the work. That's the responsibility. But if you're honest, you already know. You're not the only one who feels this. And that matters more than you think. Because when you're the one staying home, while everyone else seems fine at brunch, at concerts, at whatever exhausting thing they posted on Instagram, it's easy to believe the problem is you, that you're weak, that you're failing, that everyone else figured out how to handle modern life and you're the one who couldn't keep up. But that's not what's happening. What's happening is collective. It's just not collective enough yet for people to admit it out loud. The world changed, not slowly, not in ways we adapted to. It accelerated past the point where human nervous systems were designed to function. Constant connectivity, permanent accessibility, The expectation that you're always on, always responsive, always engaged. The elimination of downtime, the monetization of attention, the gamification of existence. This isn't normal. It's not how humans lived for the vast majority of our history. And your exhaustion isn't personal failure. It's a rational response to an irrational environment. Most people are exhausted. They're just better at pretending they're not. Or they haven't given themselves permission to stop yet. Or they're so deep in the performance that they've lost access to what tired actually feels like. You're not broken. You're experiencing what happens when a mind built for depth tries to survive in a world optimized for distraction. And here's what that means. You're not failing at life. You're rejecting a version of life that doesn't work. The guilt you feel, that's manufactured. It's the voice of a system that needs you exhausted and accessible to keep functioning. But you don't owe that system your sanity. This isn't about you being too sensitive. It's about the world becoming too hostile to the kind of mind that needs integration to survive. You're not the problem. The environment is. And recognizing that isn't giving up. It's the first step toward building a life that doesn't require you to betray yourself just to participate. Depth isn't a luxury anymore. It's a survival skill, and most people don't realize that yet. They think depth is for philosophers, for artists, for people who have the privilege of sitting around thinking about meaning while everyone else is out here hustling. But that's backwards. Depth is what keeps you sane in a world designed to fragment you. It's what allows you to know the difference between what you actually want and what you've been conditioned to perform. It's the ability to integrate experience instead of just accumulating it. Without depth, you're just reacting to notifications, to trends, to whatever emotion the algorithm decided to serve you today. You're living on the surface of your own life, and the surface is where you drown. People who can't access depth become unstable, not dramatically, just gradually. They lose the thread. They stop knowing why they're doing what they're doing. They wake up exhausted from a life that looks successful, but feels empty. You're not like that. And that's not because you're special. It's because you refuse to abandon the part of you that needs things to make sense. Depth requires time. It requires silence. It requires the ability to sit with your own mind long enough to know what's actually happening in there. And the world is actively hostile to that now. Every system we've built rewards speed over understanding, reaction over reflection, output over integration. But you can't build a stable mind in that environment. You can only build a productive one. And productivity without sanity is just high-functioning collapse. The people who survive this era with their minds intact won't be the ones who adapted fastest. They'll be the ones who protected their ability to think clearly while everyone else was optimizing for engagement. Depth isn't about being smarter. It's about staying whole. It's about refusing to let your mind become a pinball machine where every stimulus sends you bouncing in another direction. That's not withdrawal. That's discipline. You're not withdrawing from life. You're withdrawing from a specific version of life that was never sustainable in the first place. There's a difference, and it's everything. Withdrawal implies retreat. It implies fear. It implies you're running from something you should be facing. But that's not what this is. What you're doing is recalibration. You're pulling back from a world that demanded more than it gave, from social structures that required performance without providing meaning, from a pace of life that treated your mind like a resource to be extracted rather than a system that needs maintenance. You're not scared of life. You're rejecting a distorted version of it. And here's what nobody tells you. Recalibration looks like withdrawal from the outside. People see you saying no. They see you staying in. They see you opting out of things that used to be automatic, and they interpret that as loss, as you becoming less, as you giving up. But you're not becoming less. You're becoming more selective, more intentional, more aligned with what actually sustains you instead of what just keeps you busy. Some people don't need more life. They need less noise to finally live. That's you. You don't need more experiences. You need space to integrate the ones you've already had. You don't need more people. You need depth with the ones who actually matter. You don't need more stimulation. You need the clarity that only comes from stillness. This isn't about rejecting the world. It's about rejecting the lie that engagement equals aliveness, because you can be fully engaged and completely empty. You can show up to everything and experience nothing, or you can be selective, intentional, present for less, but actually present. The people who matter will understand. The ones who don't weren't paying attention to you anyway. They were paying attention to the version of you that made their life easier. You're not withdrawing from life. You're finally starting to live it on terms that don't destroy you. If this organized something in your mind that was scattered before, you're in the right place. This channel wasn't built for everyone. It was built for people who value coherence over comfort, who'd rather understand themselves accurately than feel validated inaccurately. Most content tells you what you want to hear. We tell you what you need to see. That's harder. It's less immediately satisfying. But it's the only thing that actually changes how you operate in the world. If you stayed until now, it's because something in this resonated deeper than entertainment, because you recognized yourself in a way that didn't require softening or romanticizing. Drop a comment if any part of this hit differently, not for the algorithm, because I actually read them, and because sometimes writing it out is what makes it real. Subscribe if depth matters more to you than distraction. If you want content that respects your intelligence instead of performing concern for your feelings. This isn't a community, it's a standard, and the standard is simple. We don't add noise. We remove confusion, no hype, no manipulation, no selling you solutions to problems we invented, just clarity delivered directly. For people who are done pretending exhaustion is the same as living, if that's you, stay.